Welcome back to the John McKay Show here on Radio on Fire. By emergency proclamation, Governor Hogan has postponed the 2020 primary here in Maryland. Included on that ballot will be the mayor of Baltimore City, and I am joined for the interview by Baltimore Mayoral candidate Rikki Vaughn. Mr. Vaughn, how you doing?
I am well, thank you. Thank you for having me on today. Much appreciated.
Absolutely. So much to talk about with regards to all that's going on in the world, in the country and in the world. So you were on track to compete in an election that was going to take place on April the 28th. How has this postponement affected your team?
You know, I'm going to be very optimistic. It hasn't really impacted or affected us much. I believe if you already have boots on the ground, boots in the street, you're already connected to the neighborhoods in Baltimore City and the communities in Baltimore City. The only thing it stops us from doing is knocking on the door versus now we pick up the phone and we call folks. We cannot let something like this coronavirus not only stop government and stop love in the city of Baltimore, but also across our nation. We got to get in, we got to be proactive now. We got to make sure that we are making sure that we are providing resources out there to individuals and communities. And we got to make sure that we stay connected to people. You know, we can't use this time to just go crawl up in a knot in a ball and say, hey, the work ends or the work stops or is on pause right now.
Right. No, I agree with that. As far as crisis management and the such, how important is the managerial background that you have to an event like this?
It's very crucial when you talk about leadership. In my business, we have 121 restaurants and we're spread out in 8 different states. Part of the leadership of a mayor is not only being reactive, but being proactive. We have to have different resources, different systems in place. We have to make sure that we're educating the public and educating Baltimore City residents on if a crisis do come up. We shouldn't be getting into the game time coming up with a playbook. But, that's here or there. Now that we're here, what do we do? Leadership or crisis management is very, very important. We have to make sure that we not only have the resources, but we're educating Baltimore residents where to go to get the resources. And that's where we have miscommunication coming from our city government to the residents of Baltimore. We also have to make sure that it's a holistic approach. And when you talk about unity, everyone's included. We still have not had a plan about the homelessness or the homeless individuals in the city of Baltimore. What do we do? How do we assist them? Where do they go? Part of it is not only where do they go, but we need to come outside of City Hall and go to them. That's when you talk about effective leadership. We got to stop waiting on folks to come to us, and we have to go to them. That's part of the job and responsibility of an elected official, and that's under my administration what we would do.
All right, so I understand that you are aiming for this position. On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you grade Mayor Young as far as his reaction to the coronavirus in our city?
I would, and I do know the mayor, but respectfully, I would say at a 3. And the reason why I give him the 3 is because I believe he has a good heart. I'm not going to take that away from him. I believe he has a great heart. He's very passionate. But the difference of the mayor, and I want to put it in perspective, the mayor has not been a manager. He was a legislator. And a lot of folks don't understand the difference between the president of city council and city council members and the office of the mayor. The office of the mayor is not a legislator. They're a manager. They're someone that can manage crises, can manage different agencies, supposed to be transparent, can hold folks accountable. The mayor doesn't have that background. And the reason why I say that and I give him a 3 is because now that this has come to the table, how do we address it? How do we approach it? As the mayor of Baltimore City, I would actually mandate a 14-day shutdown. I would tell businesses they cannot open. I would make sure that we allocate a hospital or a hospital and a hotel or some lodging for our first responders. I will make sure that it's secure. I will make sure that it's safe for them to go and sleep and house in. And I would actually ask them for that commitment. I would say for the next 14 days, we can't let you go home, but we've already secured housing and lodging for you. We got food supplies for you. It's going to be on the first, second, and third floor of this hotel. So after you get off shift, this where you would go. But I would put the city on a 14-day lockdown. It's a shame that we got to continue to play with folks' lives at the risk of politics when we got kids out here and so big. And as a business owner, a lot of people probably will find that very shocking to say a business owner wants to close business down. First and foremost, I'm about folks' health and safety for anything. It doesn't make sense, and I won't be able to sleep at night knowing that I made $1 at putting someone at risk. So, right. But the mayor does have that power. He just needs to execute.
Yeah. As far as that goes, and taking it a little bit further, what about Governor Hogan? What do you rate his response to this crisis?
I would rate his response a little higher. I would probably give the governor a 5 or 6 rating. I like the fact that he actually has had conversations with business owners. He has had conversations and dialogue with different city agencies and the different county executives as well as, of course, our mayor here of Baltimore City. I do like the fact that today he reached out for federal assistance. As you know, we got special funding coming from the current administration. So I like the fact that he is listening, and that's the whole key. Part of leadership, and when you call it versus, or when you put it in perspective to servant leadership, is understanding that you may not have all the answers, but understanding that you're willing to go to the table with folks that can assist you and bring resources and bring answers to it. And I think that's somewhat of what the governor is trying to do. I believe he's following suit with the New York governor. I know they're very good allies and very good friends. So I'm hoping that our current mayor would follow suit behind Keisha Bottoms, the mayor of Atlanta, and make sure that he's protecting, he understands that he has to protect the citizens of Baltimore City, and not just the citizens of Baltimore, but how many folks in Baltimore, they go outside of the city limits. We got folks coming in, whatever the case may be, but understanding that he can actually help assist this with making sure that he just get on the news, or he get an ink pen and he just, make an executive order. This is what we're going to do. So I'm hoping he's listening. And I'm hoping that he pick up the phone and give me a call, and give many of us a call, and we'll do this together. It's not about politics. It's not about Republican or Democrat. It's about making sure that we protect our families in the streets of Baltimore City.
Absolutely. Some of the town halls before this crisis hit, you were really making had some really big standout moments. Did any of your opponents develop any animosity towards you? You had some really scene-stealing moments.
I would say probably not. One thing about Rikki Vaughn is, prior to this election, I was out there in the community. I was out there in the streets. I've had the pleasure of meeting many of them on a personal level. As many would see, I don't really throw shade, right? I don't. It's not personal attacks. I look at it, and I call, folks say I'm a businessman. I look at it as business. I'm gonna always advocate for what's right. Period. If that costs me a couple of dollars, so be it. But I think my colleagues would chime in and say they have respect for me, because I've always stood by what I said. I was one of the individuals that called for the resignation of many of our elected officials that I think have broken the mistrust with residents of Baltimore City. I was under fire behind that. I was under fire about my comment around the police commissioner. I was under fire around my comment around John Pratt. I was under fire around my comment around the superintendent or the CEO of Baltimore City Public Schools. But I'm going to continue to stand by that, because, again, it's not about Rikki Vaughn. It's about what's right for our children, our grandchildren, and their children. And that's what I'm going to continue to fight and advocate for.
Absolutely. You mentioned Joanne Pratt, and it seems like situation after situation after situation that really just gnaws away at the trust that the citizens have in our elected officials. What would a Rikki Vaughn administration do to try to rebuild some of this trust?
Well, great question. Part of it is transparency. Everyone throws that word around like, it's water and a piece of bread, right? Oh, we're going to do transparency. We're going to do transparency. There's a difference about talking about transparency and actually having transparency and executing on transparency. And that's what I've done as a business owner in my restaurants and my company. I mean, it's amazing how I can go to one of my KFC restaurants and they recognize who I am. And you got this guy who owns restaurants in multiple states. One part about that is because I'm always accessible and available to my employees. They all have my cell phone number. Believe me, it rings and go off the hook 24/7. I can't always respond back to them, but that's the first part about transparency, is making sure that you're available to, and as a mayor, to your constituents, but as a business owner, to your employees. Right. It doesn't matter if that employee is a manager or if that employee is a 16-year-old cashier at the KFC register. You want to make sure that you're available to listen to their concerns and to address their concerns. Transparency under my administration will be making sure that, I always use this scenario. How many mayoral candidates and how many actual mayors get into office and all of a sudden create amnesia? We go out and we rally grassroots organizations and community associations for votes and to put yard signs out. But once elected as the mayor, why don't none of those organizations sit on the cabinet of the mayor's office? So from a transparency standpoint, the first thing I would do is appoint individuals from neighborhood associations and grassroots organizations to be part of the City Hall administration, because that way now everyone has a seat at the table, everyone has a voice at the table, and we're making sure that you're holding me accountable and vice versa, I'm holding you accountable.
Right. And that's something that I often hear people say, you come around when you need my vote, but then after you get my vote, we don't hear from you anymore.
Yes.
So, that's a big big.
The sad part about it, and this is where I'm extremely passionate about, is our children and youth, our young adults. We always talk about bringing them to the table, but when we bring them to the table, we push them back, and we say, hey, you in timeout, you're in a quiet zone. So we don't even let them have a voice at the table. But every campaign and every mayor always have young folks out there taking pictures with them and passing out yard signs and literature. Why don't we have a mayor that actually employ some young folks in City Hall? We don't have anyone under the age of 18 employed at City Hall. Under my administration, we will have a youth mayor in Baltimore City that will actually be on the payroll. The youth mayor responsibility will be part of he or she responsibility, making sure they become an advocate and an ally when it comes to our children and youth in the city of Baltimore. This also allows young folks to learn about city government, to learn about state government, national government, to where they can really gain an interest and also learn kind of the difference between legislating and managing, how to propose a bill, how to co-sponsor a bill. But yet we continue to tell them we want them to be part of the future, but yet we don't give them the opportunity. So that's one thing I would definitely do under my administration. I've already started interviewing for a youth mayor and have some great candidates. So I'm excited and looking forward to that.
Right, that is wonderful. It's wonderful. So you still have more campaigning to do. There's more time to go out and get people acquainted with you and your style, which is different from what they're used to. It's different, and I definitely applaud you and the vision that you have. How can people support your campaign?
I appreciate it. Again, thank you for having me on today. I even wore some glasses today. Try to look a little intelligent. They can go to RikkiVaughn.com. That's Rikki, Rikki, Vaughn, which is BAUGHN.com. They can call our campaign office at 443-515-9100, or they can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of that. But I'm not only asking for their vote, their prayers, and their support, but also your ideas. Again, it's not Rikki Vaughn going to City Hall, it's us going to City Hall. It's Baltimore City going to City Hall. It's about time that the people actually are now part of the governing of our city and of our different agencies. So I would love to get feedback from your viewers on what we can do together to make Baltimore a better place for all, not two Baltimores, but one Baltimore, and how we can repair, rebuild, and replenish our city.
That's good. Well said. Well said. Again, we've been speaking to Baltimore Mayoral candidate Rikki Vaughn. Thank you so much for your time. Much continued success and health and blessings to you and your family.
Likewise, the same to you, and thank you again for all that you're doing.
Thank you.